Due to the graphic nature of this program, viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Marco Gerray Show. It is Wednesday, October 15, 2025. Thank you for tuning in today's show to hear all the relevant groundbreaking news here in America and around the world, the only show where the facts are facts and hard truths thrive. Please don't forget to follow the show, share with whomever needs to hear the truth in our quest to unwoke America right now. And thank you to those that have been sharing the show with others. I appreciate you so much. Hope you're all ready for the best hour radio has to offer. Uncensored and ready to go. Today's show is actually a great one. Lots of different topics, but let's delve right into the mix of topics that I have for you today. And I want to start off talking about our economy. I've been kind of neglecting that for the past couple of days, so I wanted to kind of update everybody on what's happening with us in our economy right now. And this was in the Trends Journal. Gerald Celente discussed this. So I'm going to give you some updates on what's going on. The price of Brent crude right now is down to $62 a barrel, which means that the price of the gas pumps will soon go down. That's a positive. We like that. But the issue is we have the OPEC nations now rising supply to protect their market. Yep. That's what's happening right now. They want to make more money, so therefore they're pumping out more oil in the hopes to gain more money. But what's worse is that the global economies right now are down, heading towards a recession. That's why you're seeing those gas prices beginning to drop. And of course, the abundance of supply entering the market with the lower demand, then of course the price of the gasoline is going to start to go down. So while that's a positive for many people, especially those that travel, obviously for those that truck goods and services or whatever you do, obviously that'll be something much more positive. The obviously negative aspect of it is that we're entering a global recession. Not a good thing. And we notice this because gold is now up to $4,180 per ounce. We've never seen anything like this before. And of course, the value of the dollar falls as the price of gold goes up, as it's a precious metal. And this is why they want to lower interest rates, right? That was the big push to lower interest rates, print more money, expand. You know it. And again, that also devalues our dollar, and that's why inflation will soon rise. And again, that's what the Wall Street Journal article I read to you last week with Trump saying on the economy, wait until 2026. Because right now, even though that the stock market is good, we're seeing obviously gas prices starting to quell. The overall consumer prices are up in many cases. So there still is inflation year over year from where we were before in some of these markets. So we got to keep an eye on that. And then we're not seeing these investments that Trump once touted as being something that's coming to fruition yet. So that's another problem that we're seeing right now. It's taking a while to get the manufacturing ball rolling. We're seeing, while we're seeing relatively good GDP, we're seeing 3.8%, which is definitely good. It's in the reasonable range for sure. But we're seeing also record numbers of unemployment as well. So we've got to keep that in mind too. Again, people that want a job that can't get a job, we need to make sure we're keeping an eye on that. But don't worry, even though regardless of what I just told you, right, even though the stock market's up, GDP is in a good position, gas prices are dropping, we're not seeing the investment in America yet. And again, a lot of it I believe is due to the tariffs. That's my estimation on this. That's why I think that many businesses are hesitant to expand or build because they don't really know what's going to happen with this market. And we see a lot of these tariff wars happening between China, Russia, India, Brazil. And again, it's continuing on and on. So that's an issue. But don't worry, we've got Javier Milei of Argentina getting $20 billion right now from the United States, from us the taxpayer. Now, notice your city still look like complete trash, zero investments. But hey, we have $20 billion for Argentina to prop up Milei, in his currency reserves ahead of their midterm election, again, to bolster up their peso in Argentina. And what does this have to do with America? It's beyond me. I have no idea. What the hell do we care? How does this America first? Right? They always have money for their friends, right? We have money for foreign aid, yet we're told we have nothing for Social Security. We have nothing to rebuild America with. Isn't it odd to you that that's always the case? We always have money for war and foreign aid. Always. Without a doubt. And of course, we have defense spending, of course, too. Never forget that, which is up to $1 trillion now. Most has ever been in history. They always have money for their friends. I never, I understand that, of course. But, get a weaker dollar as a result of this. And obviously more national debt. And this is where we are right now. This is where we are as a nation. We have $20 billion for a foreign country that we could be investing here in America. And yet we don't have it. But look at this. This is in Newsmax where it discusses all of this. And it says here, the aforementioned $20 billion currency swap line has been erroneously described as a bailout by some, implying a direct grant or subsidy. But Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has emphasized it is indeed a swap line, credit facility, not a direct unilateral cash transfer. No, why would it be? Right? Why would it be that? We're giving them $20 billion of our dollars so they can use our currency. And I'm going to get into why they're doing that in just a moment. But what a currency swap line is basically just an agreement between two different central banks. We have a central bank, they've got a central bank, and it's to exchange currencies, our dollar with their peso. And again, it allows them to provide liquidity for their domestic banks during a time of financial crisis. Yeah, so they want to prop up the government. They want to prop up Milei so he stays in position because he and Trump like each other. That's why they're doing it. But he went on to say, Bessent, the United States is not putting money into Argentina in terms of capital injection, but rather providing liquidity and exchange support. For what? What are they doing for us? Does anybody know? No, nobody knows. Yep, they always have money for their friends. It's an interesting thing to me. So while our economy is in the tank, we're $37 trillion in debt, and that's going to continue to grow. We just printed out another $20 billion. Send down to Argentina. Why are they doing this, though? I think there's a bigger reason behind it other than Milei staying in office. I do. There's something much more deeper happening right now. What is that, by the way? Well, I'm glad you are asking, because it's very important. You have Brazil and BRICS in the region, of course. You have India. And, of course, you have China. Again, flat out ignoring the Trump tariff right now. It's not working. Iran is soon going to be settling in as well as a BRICS member, I do believe. But what is it unique now? They threatened India with these big tariffs. I think it was 50% if they were going to continue to buy Russian oil. And India basically told Trump to go pound sand. They're going to continue to do it anyway. But here's the kicker. India is now using the Chinese yuan to buy Russian oil as they move away from the U.S. petrodollar, the world reserve currency, folks. That's going to have a big hit on the dollar. And, yeah, I don't really know what much more to say to you about this other than it's not really a good thing. Even in India today, they're talking about this. Yep. India today. So why the yuan? Why are they doing this? And it says here that traditionally, oil payments are made in U.S. dollars. But sanctions on Russia and the need to convert payments into rubles have made alternative currencies more common. This is why they're moving away from it. Because we're sanctioning Russia for this war in Ukraine, which we have no business being a part of, by the way. Ukraine is not a NATO member. Yet somehow we're right in the mix of all this, spending over $300 billion of our taxpayer money. And now we're going to put sanctions on Russia. Again, sanctions on Iran. All these sanctions going on. So now the move to pay in yuan simplifies this process. So now it's easier for them to do that. And again, you're going to see the value of the yuan, the ruble, start to go up. And what you're seeing in contrast, of course, is our dollar dropping, losing its value. And again, today the dollar bill is worth, I think, maybe 2 pennies of what it was originally worth before we had a Federal Reserve Bank, of course. Sources quoted in the Reuters report added that while Russian oil continues to be priced in dollars to comply with the European Union's price cap, the equivalent amount can now be settled in the yuan. Wow. I mean, again, this is big. We're seeing this in other countries as well. This is a big blow to the dollar. So I think what Trump is trying to do here, and that's what Bassett is trying to do, they're trying to make sure that the dollar is still being used globally. That's what they're trying to use. Make sure it's traded in other countries. Because other than that, again, if they start depleting it, particularly in the petrochemical industry, it's over. It's over for us. And that's not a good thing. And the dollar will crash. And again, I have no idea what's going to come as a result of that, but I can imagine it's not anything very good. I think you all could agree on that. Paul Craig Roberts has a really good article that he posted yesterday. I want to go over this with you right now. And he says that Trump learns the cost of being tough. What does he mean by that? Well, the Chinese have subtly now imposed an unprecedented new wave of licensing requirements on the import and use of rare earth metals that they mine, they refine, as well as the vital small magnets produced from these compounds. So now these extremely severe restrictions would now apply to any company around the world whose goods contain as little as 0.1% of their value in that category. So that means we're going to have to pay for licensing for this. They're going to own a piece of that, is what it sounds like to me. And now apparently encompassing an enormous range of major industries, think cars, solar panels, chip making, all this. And again, it affects everything they use. You have the entire supply chain for phones, computers, data centers. Think AI, that's the future. China's going to try to be ahead on that one. That's what they're going to look into. And that's why they want to get ahead of us in this rare earths. So now that requiring individual permissions from the Chinese authorities for their use to continue on a case-by-case basis. They're making moves, folks. They're making moves. And again, most of it's in retaliation of, again, these tariffs that we seem to find ourselves in and day out. Every day it's a new tariff. Makes the markets unstable. This is what we're seeing right now. And now China's pushing back in a much bigger way because they hold all the leverage. China controls roughly over 90% of the refining and production of these small but really vital technological components, with obviously no other substitutes available. And again, this could really destroy our AI industry as well here in America if we don't get on board with that. So they're making a big move right now. So China's newest restrictions on rare earth metals would mark a nearly unprecedented export control that stands to disrupt the global economy, giving Beijing even more leverage in trade negotiations and ratcheting up pressure on the Trump administration to respond. That's exactly why they're doing this. They're going to say, okay, you're going to give us 100% tariffs? Okay. You need to buy this from us. Otherwise, you're not getting it. And that's going to become a major, major problem. If we want to stay ahead in this AI race, obviously that is something that is important to many people, that they don't let other nations kind of gain control of where we stand in using AI and how it's manufactured and what have you. So the rule put out Thursday by the Chinese Commerce Ministry is viewed as an escalation by the U.S. trade fight because, again, it threatens supply chains for semiconductors. Semiconductors, if you open up your computer, you see them in there all the time. Chips, obviously being the lifeblood of the economy, powering phones, computers, again, data centers, needed to train artificial intelligence models, all these things, extremely important. And again, this rule would also put effect against cars, your solar panels that all the liberals love to have, and of course the equipment for making chips and other products, limiting the ability of the other countries to supply their own industries. You got to go to China now. That's the position they're putting people in. And China produces, again, roughly 90% of the world's rare earth metals. What the hell do you think they're doing in Africa? What do you think they're making ports in Western Africa? They want to lead this. This is what they envision right now. So here we go. We got global companies that sell goods with the certain rare earth metals sourced from China accounting for 0.01% or more of the product's value would need permission from Beijing under this new rule. Tech companies would probably find it extremely difficult to show that their chips, the equipment needed to make them and, of course, other components fall below that 0.1% threshold, is what industry experts are basically saying right now. And again, since they're the ones that really manufacture this more than anybody else, they're going to be in control of all this. They're going to control the way technology works. It's actually a brilliant move if you ask me specifically. But they're going to be the ones that can control who gets this and who does not. So now these new Chinese economic sanctions even extended to all the technologies and equipment related to mining, refining, fabrication of these rare earth products. So now such steps were obviously aimed at preventing any foreign competitors from developing alternative future supply chains able to weaken China's current stranglehold. Yep. The total extraterritorial scope of China's new restrictions was also dramatic. And, it makes sense. It totally makes sense why they're doing this. I mean, this is actually big. It's potentially huge, notably because China's new rare earth export controls many different provisions. Anyone using rare earths to develop advanced semiconductors, again, will require a case-by-case approval. They're going to control this entire market. And they're going to jump ahead because they've been on board with this. We have not been on board with this. That's the big problem. So the main takeaway from this is that while we think, hey, we can obviously use our dollar to, again, push people in a certain direction or put on sanctions or rise tariffs on certain nations that we don't get along with, it's pushing us further and further away from free markets, of course, and, of course, free trade. And, again, the exports control also extraterritorial. We have these foreign entities that must obtain these Chinese export license now before re-exporting products manufactured abroad if they contain Chinese rare earth materials, comprising of 0.01%, 0.01%, excuse me. This is going to be huge. Now, naturally, the response of President Trump was volcanic. And, of course, he quickly declared it is impossible to believe that China would have taken such an action, but they have, and the rest is history. So we'll see how this all turns out. If they go through with this, China is going to be leading the AI field. And, of course, all future technologies are going to make a lot of money off this, folks. A lot of money off this. And I told you before, they want to be the new power in the 21st century. They saw Britain as kind of this, up until roughly, World War II. In the previous centuries before that, Britain was the world power. Britain was the world leader. Then it became America. Well, now they want to jump in on that. They want to be the nation. We were the 20th century. Britain was the 19th century. 21st century, they want China to be the leader of the world, the number one superpower. That's what they would like. And they're taking the proper steps to do so. Again, thank you, Bill Clinton, for bringing in China to the World Trade Organization. Fantastic. They're destroying us now in every sense of the word. But the thing is, these semiconductors, they're in so much stuff, so you can't get away from it. They're in consumer electronics, computing, telecommunications, automotive industry, renewable energy, industrial appliances, medical devices. What are we going to do if we can't access this? It's going to crash our economy, folks. That's what it's designed to do. And they appear to be making good on this right now. So only time will tell how this actually turns out. But again, if they go through with this, it's going to be a big change up in the way our markets function. And, of course, our relationship with China. All right, moving on. Fox News. Trump was, preaching that he wanted to be the peace president. He wanted the Nobel Peace Prize so much. How did he not get a Nobel Peace Prize? That was the big thing, of course. I'm going to look at this. And this just came out the other day, this statement. And it says, Trump threatens to speak with Putin on giving Ukraine Tomahawk missiles as Russia hits hospital. So here we go back to this war in Ukraine. Never seems to end. Continues on and on and on with no end in sight. You know, it's really remarkable that we're in this position still. All we have to do is cut off aid to Ukraine. Cut off aid to NATO, and it's over. Once you put Zelensky in a box, we realize he can't get out of it. Nobody's coming to save him. He's got to actually sit down with Vladimir Putin and make an agreement for peace. It's over. Now, Russia on Monday night hit a Ukrainian hospital in its continued intensive aerial campaign, just hours after President Donald Trump said that he would speak with Moscow on giving Kiev Tomahawk missiles in a thinly veiled threat. And again, I don't know if Zelensky asked for this. I don't know. I don't know why he would say this, which escalates the position further. But now Russia, which has repeatedly claimed that it does not target civilians, has routinely hit hospitals throughout its more than 3.5-year-long war. And of course, it injured 6 patients in the Kharkiv region after it hit a facility housing more than 100 patients with precision-guided KAB bombs. Yeah, well, they have advanced technology, too, especially in their military. Again, I don't know that the Tomahawks make much of a difference. Obviously, they can probably reach further into Russia. That might be the looming threat, but I don't think that Moscow is worried about this. I really don't think Moscow is worried about this. And just hours prior, President Trump, while he was boarding Air Force One, told Fox News that he might speak with Russian President Vladimir Putin on what Russia could be facing should the United States hand over the sophisticated weaponry to Ukraine. Again, let's think about this. They've got Oreshnik missiles that can go, I think, 3,400 miles. I mean, they got Poseidon missiles they put on submarines that launch extraordinarily far. I don't think they're worried about this. I really don't think they're worried about this. In this war of attrition, they're not losing it. We're seeing the casualties from Ukraine anywhere between 1 Russian and 12 to 20 dead Ukrainians. That's the split of what's happening in this war. So don't listen to the people that are coming out and saying, well, you know what? Russia's taking so long, it's because Russia's being deterred by Ukraine. That's not what this is about. This is a war of attrition. They're taking their time. Everything is very calculated. And Russia's been very calm and diplomatic about this. Now somebody's saying, what do you mean they're diplomatic? No way. They invaded this region. Well, yeah, they invaded the region because the Azov battalion was shelling ethnic Russians and killing them, violating the Minsk agreement. And of course, nobody did a damn thing about it. So it's not shocking that he went into this region to protect his own people, many of whom want to be annexed back into Russia, by the way. And of course, they're going to be keeping Crimea as well. So again, I don't think these Tomahawks do anything. I think it just adds more fuel to the flame. I don't think that's going to deter Vladimir Putin. He knows what his goal is, and it is to liberate the people in those regions while keeping his sea fleet in Crimea. That's what he wants. That's exactly. Again, he could have taken all this land too, by the way. So the idea that he wants to, take Ukraine, that he wants to move into Eastern Europe is a bunch of nonsense. Nothing could be further from the truth of this situation. Nothing could be further. Again, it's all lies. It's all yellow journalism, propaganda nonsense. But look at this. Ukraine has long sought more air defense as Russia has heavily relied on drone and missile assaults to pound civilian targets, including residential buildings, schools, as well as maternity and children's hospitals since the onslaught of the war. Again, I find this remarkable that this is coming out of Fox News. Israel can bomb wherever the hell they want in Gaza, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Qatar, Iran, Yemen. Nobody says a word. Yeah, nobody says a damn word about it. Who cares? They can bomb whatever they want. Doesn't matter. After all, it's their war. They got to defend themselves. Well, Putin is defending the ethnic Russians in this region. They have had zero representation. They speak Russian. They are Russian. They believe they're Russian. They believe they're in Russia. They wanted to be annexed back into Russia. But Putin said, no, we're not going to do that. But now, again, he sees this opportunity to free these people from the terror that they live. And again, nobody says a damn thing about it. Nobody says a damn thing about it ever. Nobody tells you about the history of the region or what's going on there, or the overthrow of the Ukrainian government to put in a, puppet that wasn't going to be friendly with Russia. And of course, the talks of Ukraine joining NATO, all this nonsense. As if Putin just went in there just because he wants to rebuild the old Soviet Union. That's a bunch of nonsense. It really is. So again, expect the Ukraine war to continue on, folks. I guess the meeting in Alaska was a bluff. There's nothing there. Nothing of substance came from that. And I think it's largely because we were ill prepared for it. Russia came to hear what we were going to say. But again, if we go back, and all we do now is say, we're going to keep saying this, that, more of this, then we'll get you to respond. That's not seeking peace. That's extending the war. And as I told you before, there are people that get really, really rich off war. So they love it. They absolutely love it. Security experts have been warning for months that Putin is not interested in ending his war in Ukraine and will continue to oppose the other European nations. That's a bunch of crap. Seriously, it's so stupid. I mean, he could level that whole area in no time. He doesn't want to do that. But him taking a longer time to do this gives that impression that, number one, Ukraine is holding him off. And of course, number two, that once he takes this, he's going to continue to move on. Because that's his real goal. So they sell to you that way. He doesn't want to go into Poland. He doesn't want to go into Belarus. He doesn't want to go to any of these countries. And I think if we had a real peace proposal lined up and actually sat Zelensky and Putin down, we probably could have solved this long ago. But thanks to the Biden regime, of course, sending billions upon billions of dollars worth of missiles, weaponry, aid, fighter jets. I mean, come on. What did you expect was going to happen? Again, I hate to tell you that Ukraine's going to lose the war, but hey, Ukraine's going to lose this war, folks. There's no two ways about it. So expect that to continue on. No end in sight. Absolutely no end in sight. As long as NATO, the EU nations continue to prop up Ukraine with weapons, for the time being, they still have people on the front lines to use them. And again, here's the other problem with this. If they send in these Tomahawks, you're going to have Americans now on the ground in Ukraine to use these weaponry because they don't know how to use them. Are we really going to put our boys on the ground in Ukraine in this war where the front lines are basically suicide? Yeah, I don't think that would go too very well with the MAGA base. Just thought I'd share that part with you. All right, Just the News has a good article. It says here that DOGE has created $210 billion in taxpayer savings. Well, that's good. See, they see that and they say, you know what? We could send $20 billion now to our buddy Milei in Argentina. We could send another $6.4 billion to Israel, right? They can finish off those damn Palestinians. And of course, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq. Yep. Try to get rid of those Houthis too, by the way. And then their ultimate goal, of course, which is to defeat Iran, which isn't going so well. And of course, you're seeing that whole situation blowing out of proportion right now. There's many sides saying each of the other is not fulfilling their end of the ceasefire plan. So get ready for that to heat up again very soon. Israel's telling the press that obviously Hamas only returned 4 of the dead 28 bodies right now. Hence, they violated the command. There was 5 people shot in Gaza City as of recent. So that means Israel's presence hasn't moved out of the region, which it was supposed to do. So all these things are happening, of course. And of course, you have Hamas not laying down their arms. That was supposed to be part of phase 2. Laying down their arms, disarming, and of course, out of control. It's not happening. We're not seeing that happen. So again, expect that to continue on as well, sadly enough. We're not seeing so much fighting right now. And by the way, too, Israel's also only sent in, I think, 150 trucks. And the said number was supposed to be somewhere around 600 to bring in aid and resources to people in the region. You're seeing people getting shot in the streets of Gaza. These are mostly people that have worked with the Israeli government that have been caught. They're a part of these other types of factions inside that don't really work with Hamas. And they've been shot. But everyone says, oh my God, look what's happening. Well, of course it's happening. These people are working with the people that are bombing them day in and day out. That's what you're seeing. So I guess it's a form of street justice. I don't know what more I could say about it. Obviously, it's not a good thing. But people that have been working underground with the Israeli government are getting caught, and they're being killed in Gaza. And again, I think that pales in comparison to what the IDF has done to the people of Gaza. Yeah, not a good thing, folks. Not a good thing. Again, I want the chaos to end. I want glad the hostages are released. I mean, that's at least number one thing that we could all be happy about. But we want this to stop. We want the bloodshed to stop of innocent people. And it's not. It's continuing on. And again, I think you're going to see this kick up sometime very, very soon. And again, they still have Iran in their purview as well. So look for that as well. We'll see how this goes. Where is this international body that's not supposed to be in charge of Gaza? Are the Palestinians even going to agree to that part? Are they going to let a Tony Blair-like figure come in who's hell-bent on this digital ID crap inside of the UK, a war criminal in his own right, to govern the region? Is that going to actually happen? Are the Palestinians going to say, we're done having Israel guard over us and control us and rule us? Let's bring in the people that started all this mess, the British, back in the region again. Yeah, along with Donald Trump, apparently. Again, I don't know how we have any jurisdiction to do any of this, to be honest with you. I don't know, folks. It's going to be very interesting to see how that turns out. But back to this article. It says that the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, which is led by Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, is being touted as it has reached $214 billion in federal spending reductions as of October 4th, according to its official website. Okay, good. Let's get rid of it then. And let's stop this excessive spending in federal aid. That should be the first thing that goes. Federal aid, gone. We're not spending any more money. We're $37 trillion in debt. That's only going to continue to grow as the interest grows upon that. Now, once on the campaign trail in October 2024, when Elon Musk announced that his most ambitious target, stating that DOGE would reduce federal spending by at least $2 trillion. The actual savings have been a subject of considerable arguments, with endless debate about economics, of course, market forces, and the ways that they have been interrupted. So, this all breaks down to one thing. Yes, get rid of the government waste, the fraud, the malfeasance, and what have you, but there's so much of it going on. There's so much of it going on. Again, we're starting to see the layoffs, too, from the government shutdown. That's continuing on because the Democrats are stalwarts to give illegal aliens taxpayer-funded health care. They want that, and of course they hide behind everybody. That's what they do. Oh, we want it for everybody. No, they don't. They want it for specifically illegal aliens. That's what they want it for. Again, it's treason. Absolutely treasonous. And now the site breaks down, in the wall of receipts, breaks down the savings from various categories like asset sales, contract and lease cancellations, or renegotiations, fraud elimination, grant terminations, interest savings, programmatic changes, regulatory relief, and workforce reductions. So this is roughly hitting 30% of the total of this, detailed in the DOGE wall of receipts, which lists specific actions such as the termination of 13,440 contracts worth approximately $61 billion. 15,887 grants worth $49 billion, and 264 different leases worth $113 million. Now, the remaining savings are unitemized, with DOGE noting that the full documentation is delayed due to regulatory requirements and lags in the public databases. Yeah. So, I mean, I like this. I think this is a good thing. But we need to make sure we stop the excessive spending. And what do I mean by that? Foreign aid. You can't cut $214 billion. Say, you know what? We're going to give $20 billion here, $6 billion there. We're going to give some more money over here. And again, meanwhile, what's going on in your city streets? Where's the investment? Where's the investment in your city streets? It's nowhere. All around the country, nowhere. Nowhere to be found. And again, that's why you're seeing the unemployment rates go up. So while it's good to cut government spending, and if we stop the excess spending in other categories, then you're going to see that unemployment rate go down. How do I know this? Well, because back in over 100 years ago now, when Warren G. Harding took office, the unemployment rate was something like 6% when he took office. He did absolutely nothing but cut government spending the first year he was in office. That number was cut in half to 3%. A year later, he did the exact same thing. It was down to less than 2%. He didn't do a damn thing. He didn't make a new commission. He didn't make a new program. He didn't give people free this, free that. He simply cut government spending and let the market work for itself. And it fixed itself. We didn't need a program. Only if Herbert Hoover could have seen that, he may have avoided some economic downfalls in the country. But again, you see government overreach. You see this excessive spending. And of course, what does it do? It rings up your national debt, destroys investments, destroys the dollar, and of course, creates more unemployment. And especially it doesn't help when you're outsourcing manufacturing jobs. But I digress. Now, DOGE's milestones show a progression from $55 billion in February 2025 to $105 billion in March, $160 billion in April, $180 billion in June, and now $214 billion in October. But these figures are debated due to inconsistencies with public financial data. Well, they need to continue on with this. That's what they need to continue on, get rid of the waste, fraud, and abuse. We all want that. We all like this. This is something positive for once. And again, Trump is also laying off workers during this entire time that the government is closed. So now it's just really saving even more money, or at least it should. So there you go. Some positive being done in Washington, D.C. We just got to stop the government spending. That's what it comes down to. All right. ZeroHedge. Great article. And not shocking. My old stomping grounds, L.A. County. Oh, how I miss it so much. I miss it. I got to be honest with you. I miss California. Beautiful place. L.A. County declares state of emergency over ICE raids. Will pay rent and provide legal aid. This is amazing. Why don't they just buy everyone houses, too, while they're at it? Free food, free cable. I mean, hey, what the hell? Why not? You're already spending money on illegal aliens. Let's spend some more money. After all, you're just going to print it out anyways. But here we go. L.A. County has now declared a state of emergency over ongoing ICE raids. It will provide rent relief for tenants who have fallen behind as a result of the enforcement actions targeting people living in the United States illegally. So let's pause and think about this. They're going to give you rent relief. You, not you listening, of course, but you, the illegal alien, and they're going to provide you with legal assistance. It's unbelievable. Legal aid. This is amazing to me. Where are they going to get this money from, L.A. County? That's broke as can be. Couldn't even put water in fire hydrants to stop forest fires. Destroying beautiful neighborhoods. Palisades, Malibu, Eaton Canyon near Pasadena. Yep, that all went to hell in a handbasket. They couldn't do that. They couldn't figure out how to put water in a reservoir. But they're definitely going to be able to get you rent relief. Now, this declaration, introduced by Lindsay Horvath and Janice Hahn, passed by a 4-1 vote with Supervisor Catherine Barger, the only Republican on there, opposing it. In addition to rent relief, it will also use taxpayer funds for legal aid and other services. What could those other services be? Well, obviously it's going to be health care. It's obviously going to be food, programs like EBT, SNAP, you name it. I'm sure they'll be getting that as well. It's amazing. Isn't this amazing? People aren't going to work and they're not supposed to even be here in this country. And the response by your local officials is to give them money to do nothing while the federal government is using money to try and get rid of these people. Now, the Tuesday vote allows county supervisors to mobilize resources and, of course, request state and federal finance assistance. Can you imagine that? Do you think the federal government is actually going to assist them in this? I doubt it very much. To respond to the impacts of the raids and expedite contracting to address the crisis. The crisis. What's the crisis? You have 1.2 million illegals just residing in L.A. That's the crisis. That's a big problem. which will sure be, well, I'm sorry, which we're sure will be handled carefully as the Palisades fire. Yeah, right, exactly, right? Nothing's being built there. Do you see that? We're going to expedite these permits, cut the red tape. Go drive on PCH right now. Look at the homes that are still charcoaled, burned in their lots. Gavin Newsom's now selling off the plots of people that are selling to Chinese investors, by the way, to the tune of $65 million. Yep, that's how much they care about you folks. You, the citizen, who've lost everything because of their malfeasance and inaction and stupidity, by the way. But one cannot help but wonder if the entire point of the declaration is to squander taxpayer funds while delegitimizing the Trump administration's deportation efforts in the court of public opinion. I mean, I don't know how people in LA can stand this. Your board of supervisors, would rather vote in favor. They're all Democrats, by the way, that voted for this. There's 5 of them total, 4 of them Democrats. The lone Republican voted against it. But they're actually going to be taking your taxpayer dollars, which can be given to schools, build up the streets, build up the infrastructure, fix street signs, pave roads, all this stuff. And instead of doing that, they're going to give it to people that have no right to be in this country. It's amazing to me to even have to read this to you. I mean, this is the state of the nation that we're in right now. And again, it goes on to talk about how what's happening in our communities is an emergency, and LA County is treating it like one, is what Horvath said. Declaring a local emergency ensures that the full weight of county government is aligned to support our immigrant communities who are being targeted by federal actions. First of all, they're not being targeted if they're immigrants, number one. Number one, that's the most important part to understand. They equate the immigrant population that's here legally, that are law-abiding citizens, and equate that with illegal aliens. That's what they do. That's how they get into your psyche about this. That there's some grave injustice going on when there's really not. Now, ICE began its raids in LA back in June with the assistance of 700 active duty Marines, largely because they were being attacked in the streets by these violent protests, which turned into riots, of course. Think Antifa. Think the people that have been paid off by George Soros. By the way, what's going on there? We said we're looking into that. Nothing, right? No, nothing. Anyone fired from the Epstein case? No, nothing. No one from January 6th? Nope. No one arrested. No. We just got Jim Comey, who's going to probably walk. Yep. That's the way it works. Yep. For months, families have now lived under threat and workers have been taken from job sites. This proclamation is about action and speed. It allows us to move faster, coordinate better, and use every tool available to protect and stabilize our communities. We will continue to stand with our immigrant neighbors today and for as long as it takes. Well, that is wonderful. Isn't that wonderful, folks? They care more about the illegal alien than they care about you. Yeah, your home can burn down. They'll sell you out. They'll buy you out. Gavin Newsom puts in proposals that allow for the state to purchase the land at a much cheaper rate, and then they can sell it off to the highest bidder from abroad. And of course, you can go straight to hell. That's their position. It's really, really sad. Really, really, really sad. And there's nothing much more to say about that. That's your local government in LA. They don't give a damn about you. They care about the illegal alien because they care about the voting bloc. It allows them more votes because they look like they're sympathetic and, of course, full of compassion for people, even though they could give less than a damn how these people live. The crimes that illegal aliens commit, they don't care about that. Or they stress that it causes on the existing communities. Again, if you're ushering in 1 million illegal aliens in just the city of LA, you got to think how many people you're giving houses to, putting a strain on the real estate market, on the school system, definitely on the health aspect of it too. A whole bunch of things get blown out of proportion. You got to think insurance. What happens when one of these illegal aliens get in a car accident and they have no insurance? What happens to your insurance rate, folks? Well, it goes up. And again, you're seeing this time and time again. Not a shock. By the way, Slay News says that Switzerland follows UK and advances for plans for a digital ID. I told you this was coming, folks. I told you this was happening. Nobody wanted to believe me. No way that'll happen. Come on, Gervais. No way. They just want to make sure people are there legally. Really? Yeah, their borders are open up nonstop. You think they actually give a damn who's here legally and who's illegal? No, they don't. They don't care. It's all about control. But now here, Switzerland has now narrowly approved a controversial nationwide digital identification system, joining European neighbors and advancing policies critics warn could erode privacy and personal freedoms. Absolutely. I just explained that to you last week when I talked about it on the show. Everything's in a database, and they know how to put everything in the database about you, how to sell that information, how to use that information against you. And of course, they can take out anything they want from the chip. They can close the chip, or the account rather. So it's just complete control if everything is electronic and you have no hard currency. And of course, it adds to the social credit score system that they want to implement. Just take a look at what China's doing, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So now marks the second time in 4 years that the issue has gone to a vote. The slim margin highlights the country's continued division over government-backed digital identifications and, of course, these initiatives. But unlike European counterparts, Switzerland's digital ID program will be issued exclusively by the government, provided free of charge, and kept strictly voluntary. Yeah, it'll only be voluntary for a certain amount of time. Then once enough people do, they say, well, you know what? In order to function, everyone's got to have it. Everyone's got to have it now. Again, increments. Always think of what they're doing as done in increments when they want to destroy something or push something on you. We see this with the Second Amendment in America. You see people that champion the Second Amendment shall not be infringed, but then you see the local state governments, well, we just want to, we just don't want you to have weapons of war. We don't want you to have weapons of war. We don't want those AR-15s out there. Even though AR-15s are not even the most lethal rifle or weapon out there, or are even commonly used. But they use these situations, like a mass shooting or what have you, to take away your right to own whatever firearm you want, which you have every right to own, whatever the government has. And the military, by the way. That's exactly what the Founding Fathers wanted. So now what you have are the slow increments. Now look what's happening in California now. Now they want to ban the Glock firearms because you can make it into an automatic weapon. Folks, are law-abiding citizens going to take a Glock and transfer it into an automatic weapon? Something tells me no. Something tells me that's a gang thing. That's a street thing of which the gun is obtained illegally. But that doesn't stop the government from encroaching on your rights. Same thing with this. Oh, it's just going to be voluntary right now. Voluntary. Yep. And then all of a sudden, yeah, you need this in order to live. Otherwise, good luck. You want to work? You better buy it. You want to eat? You better buy it. Yep, it's complete control after that. And then you have nothing. Then you have absolutely nothing. You have no way to fight back. I mean, they're just one step closer to saying, you know what? We've decided having the cell phones is just too much of a thing. We're just going to put a little chip in your wrist here. Yeah, we're going to put it right there in your hand right here. Yep. The mark of the beast, folks. Mark of the beast. Go look at that up in the Bible. And tell me that's not coming soon. Now, officials have stressed the personal data will remain on individual smartphones rather than on centralized government or commercial databases. That's a bunch of crap. Of course, they're going to have access to it. Physical cards will continue to be valid, and officials have pitched the measure as a matter of convenience rather than surveillance. Well, who cares? Who cares about the convenience of it? They're pushing it because this is what they want. Same thing with the UK. This is exactly what they want. So Swiss lawmakers now hailed the framework as a privacy-protecting alternative to the European Union's European Digital Identity Wallet. And of course, the EUDI combines centralized and decentralized storage and has raised alarms about the potential mass data aggression. That's exactly what it is. If anything can be connected to the internet too, by the way, they can check it out and they can look at it too, just so we're all clear on this. Again, it shouldn't be a shock, but now we're seeing growing pushback across Europe. This is good because this is what they need. And they need to do it now because once it happens, once it gets rolling and implemented, then you're screwed. So now they're still seeing the skeptics caution that even voluntary programs can, of course, become de facto mandatory if tied to essential services. So what they're saying here is basically, let's say you like to go into McDonald's in Switzerland. And then McDonald's in Switzerland says, you know what, you need to have a digital ID to buy here. We saw this with the COVID passports. Remember this? Yep. Got to get your COVID ID. You got to show it when you walk in the business here. Yeah. See how quickly that worked? Completely unconstitutional, too, by the way. Nothing was said about that. In fact, it was championed by the federal government at the time, under the Biden administration. But again, once these systems are in place, the danger is, of course, that the governments, the global institutions can gradually expand their use until opting it is no longer a real choice. That's exactly what it is. That's why they want you using less cash. That's why I always keep cash on me. The concerns echoed broader pushback in the UK. Yep, because that's what Keir Starmer, the socialist government, is moving towards, with plans to make digital ID effectively required for employment. That's how they'll use it. If you want to work, you've got to get this. So this is exactly what it is. Obviously, the civil liberties and advocates of such are raising much concerns, obviously locking out citizens out of the access to a job or critical services. This is how they're going to use it. They're going to use it through coercion, just like you saw during COVID. You want to come in the store, you got to wear a mask. You say, well, masks are dumb. I don't want to wear a mask. Well, you want to come in the store or not? Well, I got to eat. I got to get in the store. This is the same exact push. Except you can take the mask off and throw it out when you leave. And again, I'm not imploring anyone to wear a mask because it was completely ridiculous. But what I am saying is once you start bowing down on what they want, you know, the palm reading, which what they have in a lot of these Whole Foods and what have you, to pay for items, you're going to start seeing all this is going to start coming into fruition. Well, you want to pay, you got to pay with your palm. Now, we don't take cash anymore. Sorry. We only take your card with a chip in it, or you can pay with your palm. Oh, sorry, we don't have those anymore with the chip readers. We got to pay with your palm. You got to link to the system, and you got to be a member, and see how it works? Slowly but surely. Slowly but surely. So will the people of Europe wake up, or will they... What will they do? I don't even know what they would do. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. All right, folks. Let's move on. This one is obviously very important. This is in Breitbart. Barack Obama claims Republicans want to steal seats, rig big elections, and add for Newsom's gerrymandering proposal. Can't this guy stay out of politics? Doesn't he realize he's not very well liked? That he gave us Donald Trump because he was such a crappy president? Does he not understand this? Yet he's linking arms now with Gavin Newsom. And again, urging Californians to vote in favor of Proposition 50. This was the ballot measure, of course, to replace the state independent redistricting system with a legislature-approved map projected to eliminate several Republican seats in the Congress. And by several, I mean they want to get rid of 5. So they want to take out more representation. This is a way, of course, they can garner more districts in their favor. Not only that, but, again, they can use this to, again, gain more gain more control in the local election as well. This is what they do. This is what they want to do. Then once you have the Democrats running it, they control it. And, of course, they rig it that way. Now, I know some of you are going to say, well, nobody rigs the elections, Gervais. We just have way too many Democrats in California. Okay, I mean, if you want to believe that, that's fine. And I'm not saying elections don't matter. But what I am saying is there is definitely some cheating going on in the state of California. There's no way at 8:01 p.m., right after the polls closed, back in November of 2024, they knew unequivocally that Adam Schiff won and Kamala Harris won the state. Just thought I'd share that with you. And by the way, why isn't Trump getting on with these forensic audits of these electronic voting machines in states where there's no voter ID? Why is he not doing that? This should be number one in his campaign right now. federally audit all these machines going back to 2020 so we can see the real results of them. And the only way you can do this is through a forensic audit, as I've shared to you many times, where I don't know why he's not doing this. This would blow the whole thing out of proportion in a sense that you can see the massive amount of cheating that's going on. And believe you me, there was a lot of cheating going on, particularly in 2020. But, I mean, how do you have an election? We don't have to require anyone to have an ID, which Gavin Newsom passed. You don't have to show any ID in the state of California. They won't even ask you for it. Yeah, you can go and vote in an election and think that it actually means something. Yep, on Tuesday, California Governor Gavin Newsom posted on X, listen to Barack Hussein Obama, sharing a new video featuring former President Barack Obama, encouraging voters to support Proposition 50 in the state's November 4th special election. Remember I told you to vote no on this? Absolutely vote no on this. This is just more of a way they can control you in California. Take more of your representation away. Say the hell with the roughly over 6 million voters in the state of California, probably more than that, and say you're meaningless. Gavin Newsom is not somebody that is one for the people, I'd have to say. In the video, Obama says, California, the whole nation is counting on you. Democracy is on the ballot. Shut the hell up. Democracy's on the ballot. You wouldn't know democracy if it took a dump on your head. Pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. How's democracy on the ballot when you're stealing congressional seats won by Republicans? And you're open about it. And you're open about gerrymandering. Republicans want to steal enough. How are Republicans stealing the seats in Congress? You moron. We don't run anything in the state. Republicans want to steal enough seats in Congress to rig the next election. Yeah, right. I told you what was happening in Texas. You're having an influx of people. California's losing people. Many of the people coming to Texas are Republicans. Not all, but many of them are. They're growing in population. And they're going to redistrict these maps in a way, of course, that favor Republicans. That doesn't mean they're going to steal the election, of course. Now, one could argue that same thing in California. They're not really going to steal the seats. They're just going to redistrict in a way that will favor Democrats. But here's the problem. Texas, again, I told you, has an influx of people. So there's more people moving into certain areas. You're seeing a massive population increase. You are seeing a population decrease in California. So there's no need to do that in California. There's no need to do it. Now, again, I'm not in favor of gerrymandering, but if they want to, again, redistrict, and they have every right to do so per their constitution, they have a right to do that. Gavin Newsom does not. He's going to create a specific board to actually do away with it being fair. So it's just moronic. It's another power grab for Gavin Newsom. Prop 50 puts our elections back on level playing field. No, it doesn't. How could he say this? And again, ignore 40% of the state, roughly. And again, I'd say there's more than 40% of the state that lean right. And now cut it down already, because they already took 3 other seats in the last election. Cut it down even more to 4. So in a state with, I believe there's 54 or 53 congressional seats in California, it may have gone down because of the loss of population. You've got Gavin Newsom coming in and saying, you know what, we need to get even less Republican seats and less representation to Congress. This is how they gain control. This is what, again, what is happening in Texas has nothing to do with what's happening in California. California is losing population, and they're going to continue to lose population. So the whole thing in and of itself is pretty stupid, I'd have to say. And the fact that anyone will listen to these two, by the way, this isn't even popular in California. But folks, if you have your ballot, make sure you're voting no on Prop 50, and make sure you put it in the envelope so it can't be seen. I'm getting told by people that if you put it in a certain way, there's a hole that shows that you've selected no. So make sure that when you go in there, you at least flip it upside down so it can't be, your no vote cannot be seen. That way they don't throw it out. And again, there's no way to even prove that they're even collecting it. So don't give them any more availability to destroy your vote. That would be bad. All right, folks, we've got a minute remaining. Well, I was going to go over with you this great article in The Hill about the view of ignoramus women, but I think I'm going to share it for tomorrow. I'll save it for tomorrow. It's a good one. We'll save it for tomorrow. It won't lose any of its flavor for tomorrow. So we'll have to continue doing that tomorrow. Folks, thanks for being here as always. I appreciate you so much. Hope you'll share the show with some friends. Hope you learned a lot from the show as well today. And again, this is a way to get people woken up. Because I guarantee most people are not telling you the information I'm telling you. And again, if you can spread the news, spread the information, people start to ask questions, people start to research properly, we can start making a difference in this country. So don't forget, vote no, Californians, on Prop 50. Get those votes in ASAP. And of course, as always, I'll see you tomorrow on the next Marco Dre Show. Until then, be good, stay busy. God bless each and every one of you.